This is Mr. Impact Wrestling himself, Moose, and you're listening to the Irish Whip.
Hookers? Hookers and Coke?
Hookers and Coke, man.
You're the only pro wrestler I know that wants to do this shit in the morning.
Yeti, you're a f***ing moron.
Put it this way, I think Sami Callihan might as well just change his name to Invader
I
Warner.
want to know why. Like, he can dodge any question. Like, I'll tell anyone that. You can tell me but I'm going to ask specific questions.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
WrestlingNewsSource.com. For all the rest of you yahoos who are out there dilly-dillying you little wankers, we're actually receiving real wrestling news.
This is
Brett screwed Brett.
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Brett screwed Brett.
Hold two! Arm bar!
Hey, get a nice shot of the brand new Mr. and Mrs. Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate your hat. I hate your t-shirts. I hate your wristbands. I hate your shoes. I hate your music. I hate the C Nation. I hate everything that you stand for.
Sodas rule.
Yeah, they do.
What's up, TIW Mafia? It's a Yeti. Hey, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Product of Wrestling News Source. Kaia is back. She's hanging out, getting ready to come in. We got her in an exclusive place to do the interview from. She has her sidekick with her, so we're really looking forward to it. The Good Witch, the Conduit of Karma, and somebody that I've really been looking forward to interviewing because we're huge Beyond fans. We're huge WBR fans. We're just fans of the product in the Northeast. Of course, JP being from Boston. And I watch everything through the screen. So we're super excited and super happy to have Kaia here. Also, Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. We're going to really try to talk about that because that's what we do is we talk about independent pro wrestling. We talk about some of the best academies to attend, and we try to get as much information as we can so people can make amazing decisions. And that's it. So let's bring in Kaia. How are you tonight? Good Witch, Conduit of Karma, Kaia McKenna. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm doing good. I'm actually heading out to Iowa to do some more rehab training before I hopefully get back to the ring in the end of spring. So I pulled over in a rest stop. I've got Empress with me. Just going to get a cup of coffee and we're just going to chat for a little bit. It's going to be a nice little mental break.
Good. And that's, I want to tell you how much I appreciate that because that's huge for you to be able to, like, you're doing something very important. Like you're recovering from an injury. And we were talking before, but the question I wanted to ask, like, and let everybody kind of absorb and listen to is, how do you take, cause I wouldn't say it as a meteoric rise, but you're popular pretty fast. Like you got a fan base really fast. And then, AEW injury, you smack, I think what you referred to as what it felt like a sheet metal. Like just stiff and did something to your labrum. What has the process been for you mentally, emotionally, physically?
I feel like it's a lot like it's a loss, right? Like, so you know how if you lose a loved one in your life, you grieve. When you lose the ability to do something you love, hold on one second. Enough.
No, don't worry about it.
This is the whole interview. I'm so sorry. When you
Empress is here.
Yeah, like seriously, put the tweet out now. Like Empress is going off live and ready to go. It's a pug. I can't help it.
That's right.
But yeah, so when you lose someone in your life, you have to go through a grieving process. I feel it's very similar to when you're wrestling and you lose the ability to do wrestling for any period of time, whether it be a couple weeks, a couple months, years, you name it. You go through a loss and you have to go through this grieving process. And everybody does it differently. At first, I was very angry. I was very angry because I could not understand why something like this would happen to me. You know, that whole feeling that you get. And then I was really upset and disheartened and depressed because I was one of those people that had my surgery, diligently did my physical therapy, did not rush to come back, waited, went to every doctor's appointment, did every little progression, like adjusted my diet, took all the supplements. I did my recovery by the book. And I still had an incident of re-injury. So it was very, very hard for me to accept that, considering the percentage of that happening. It was like a 2% chance. Like, what are the odds? Maybe I should go buy a lottery ticket. I don't know. But it was very hard, and I got very, very depressed after that injury in the fall. And I think that kind of hindered my ability to bounce back as quickly as I did previously, because it wasn't a physical issue, but I needed to be in the right spot mentally to build my body back up for what I wanted to do, which was wrestling. So that's kind of where I've been. And it's been it's been 5 months. It doesn't feel like it. It certainly doesn't. I think it's in part because I have so much support from all of you guys out at the shows and online and everything. But it's been a little bit longer of a process this time, but I think it's more been a mental game for me than a physical game. You always have that what if in the back of your head.
Do you I mean, obviously, to be able to do what you do, you've got to have some mental strength and some emotional aptitude. You talked about like depression, like you're right. Grief is messy. Like you're happy,
Dude,
you're angry, you're sad, you're excited,
sad.
you're
blanket
all
burrito for like a good 6 weeks. I was just not feeling it. It even upset me to watch wrestling at that point, because I devoted a whole year of my life to just doing this comeback that was literally, I got cleared the day before that happened. Like, that was my date of medical clearance. And then the next day I was immediately re-injured, and I was just like, like, how? So it was very hard. But
what do you because we're really huge on mental health. Like we're really big on it. We think it's something that isn't talked about enough. And a lot of individuals that struggle with mental health are huge pro wrestling fans, because it's an outlet. It's a creative outlet. And not only just podcasts, but people that do digital stuff like you with the stuff that you do with Mothra and Scapegoat. Like that, to me, that's an outlet. What was your outlet during that time?
Is it going to be terrible if I say the internet community and the support I received from people on wrestling Twitter? I mean, when you're going through this rehab process and you're not out at the shows physically to be around the people who support you in person, like people who would like my tweets or check on me or interact with me or follow my recovery story, really helped pull me out of that rut and helped keep me going. Because it's very interesting. One thing I've learned in being out of action for almost a year and a half now is wrestlers forget sometimes. Like, we forget each other because we're all so focused on trying to get ourselves to the next thing, the next place, the next whatever. So it's very easy for people to fall out of the shuffle and off your radar when you're doing your grind. But like, the fans never forget. They never forget. Like, it's just incredible to me. Like, despite being out for as long as I've been out and everything I've been through, I still will pop up at a show on occasion to help out while I'm recovering. And wrestlers are happy to see me, but the fans are like, oh, when are you coming back? I can't wait for you to come back. Can you take a picture so we can put it on Twitter? Like, oh my God, I miss watching you wrestle so much. And I'm so happy to see you and see that you're doing well. And like, that type of support was what really kind of helped pull me up out of that little sad blanket burrito that I had become, is seeing that there really are people out there that, despite how long it has been, they're still waiting for me. I'm sorry, I don't get emotional.
No.
It's really nice. It was just such a refreshing thing. And it's such an important thing to like make sure you're also interacting with those people, because they're so pivotal to your success and your livelihood, So yeah, honestly, like, just having the support online really made a huge difference in pulling me out of the rut.
Well, I think we, hey, Joe Bruin, what's up, my friend? He's up there in the Northeast. It's good that you're emotional, because I think that proves that you're healing. And when you're an injury like this it could destroy somebody mentally. I really feel like there's two ways you can go. You can either like get really negative because you were there, you're like, I'm healed, I'm ready to go, and the next day, like, it's like, you might as well just punch me in the gut, put me down, I'm done. Like, I did everything that I possibly could. You asked, I did it, I changed my diet, and then I get this. So I firmly believe things happen for a reason, and with you being where you're at training, you're heading to Iowa now, like at Black and Brave, I really feel like those are that's family. And when you
It is
when you
definitely
get there, when you get there, I think the work that you've done mentally, emotionally, physically, I think it just builds and it builds and it builds and it shows your true character. It really does. And people like you make it, and the other people that quit.
you can't be a quitter. I'm many things in life. There are many, many things, many words you could use to describe me and my personality, but quitting and quitter is not one of them. I'm definitely not a quitter. I think I actually do better when I'm under a little bit of pressure. I have to like rise to the occasion. It definitely galvanizes me in a good way.
I mean, risk taker, obviously. Like you like.
I don't know about that. I'm a safe witch. Crazy.
Let's talk about that, because you are a witch. I mean, let's just call it what it is. I mean, people are always wondering, is this part of a character? Is it a gimmick? To me, it is. The best people out there take what they have and magnify it to something that's marketable. And talk to me about, maybe if you can even remember, like, has this been a part of your life since you were a child? Was this as a choice? Like, how did it come about where you're taking, I call it the old word, right? Because I'm a Viking. My family is Irish and Scottish, so I understand the roots. These gods are a little different, right? And religion kind of twists that a little bit, I think. So, like, when did you know that this is what you were focused on, and how the moon, just all together? When did you know?
Well, I was really fortunate because I was born into a family of witches. Like, my aunt's a high priestess, like my grandmother is a witch. I was always raised around it, so it was always a part of my upbringing. There are people in my family who are conventionally religious, and that's also fine. I think that everybody kind of is drawn to what they're drawn to, and they follow that path that brings them happiness, right? But this is what brings me happiness: is I enjoy being a witch, and I enjoy the practice of it. I love how mindful it is. I love how intuitive it is, and I love how, I hate to say proactive, but it's very proactive. Like, you are taking a stronger role in your destiny and what happens to you on a day-to-day basis, instead of putting it in the hands of a deity or somebody else or whatever, right? It's like you are taking a more active role in your destiny and where you're going. And I love that. That's one of my favorite things about magic, is that with the right intentions and the right focus and the right ability, you can truly perceive the energies around you and adapt to them or adjust them so you get the desired outcome.
Right. And I was brought up in non-denominational, but as I get older, I really wanted to understand what religion was. And I read the Bible, I read the Quran. I mean, I read a lot of stuff. And once I did the 23andMe, like, then I felt like that piece of what was in me, I could find it again. Like, I understood more of, like, not really my purpose, but like, okay, I get it. Like, those are my roots. Those are my genes. It's inherently here. So I need to at least identify with it and try to work with it. So to me, it's awesome, because you're taking what you are and magnifying that. So there's nothing, when you're talking or engaging, there's nothing, you don't have to play anything. You're just Kaia.
No, it's really easy. It's like, people are like, oh, cut a promo. Oh, okay. I can definitely just talk about some witch stuff. Oh, hey, what's up, Rob? I think some people struggle with that because they're acting or they're playing a role. But whenever the personality you're projecting is from a piece of who you truly are as a person, it's much, much easier to be natural in your delivery, right? So I think that that's a key. I mean, you don't have to, it's like, take it and turn it up. I'm sure we've all heard that in wrestling a million times. Like, find this little piece of you that you really want to amplify and turn it up to 11. But there's some truth in that, because it's genuine and it feels real. It doesn't feel contrived or scripted or, disingenuine, right? It's
right.
It's the real deal. So I'm very fortunate that I know who I am as a person outside of wrestling. I know who I want to be within wrestling, and it's very easy for me to come up with how I want that person and character to be portrayed. Like, I know who Kaia McKenna is and how I want people to perceive her and what I want them to take away from her. What's up, Kurt?
Part of the process, like, what made you decide Black and Brave? Like, did you go through a list? Did you try? How did that? What was the decision that made you go Black and Brave?
It did a lot because there's a lot of wrestling training available these days, especially to someone like me who's based on the East Coast. But there were a couple of factors that played into my decision. First, I just wanted to go to the best possible school I could possibly go to. And at the time, I was like, man, you mean to tell me I can go learn from the WWE Universal Champion? Like, that's nuts. That's where I'm going. You know, that would be like going to learn wrestling from Hulk Hogan in his heyday when he was champion, right? Like, what a crazy, when you really think about it like that, that's crazy opportunity. Why wouldn't you take that? So that was obviously the overarching thing is I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to learn from the best there is. But another factor that really played into it, because there are good wrestling schools on the East Coast, is I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And to commute up to New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania, where most of the schools are, I would be constantly combating traffic, paying astronomical tolls, putting wear and tear on my vehicle, all while at the time I was working 3 jobs. I was a bartender, a painting instructor, and a dog sitter. So that was a little nuts. And like, there was no school with like a set, like, you will come here and we will teach you wrestling and then you will be good to go in X number of weeks or X number of months out where I was living. It was all like as you go type programming. So I couldn't even put a time frame to it. And I was like, okay, I don't want to sit in traffic. I don't want to pay a bunch of tolls. And I just want to get this shit done and wrestle, you know, like for lack of a better term. So that was the other driving factors. I was like, I was going to spend just as much money doing all the commuting to go to a school out east as I would have to just take my stuff and go be in Iowa for the 3 months and learn from Seth and Merrick at Black and Brave. So that's what I decided to do.
I don't want to get too involved into it, but how often, like when you're making this trip, how long post injury, how much time are you taking over there, or are you just getting to the point, like I see you doing like your first pull up, like you're getting to the point where the confidence is there and things are building? Have you traveled back over there back and forth just to like connect and do stuff?
All the time, all the time. Okay. It really is like a family. They admire hard work. I think that if you put the work in and you really go and put yourself out there and you bust your ass, like you always have a spot there. You're always family. So I go back all the time. I have a roommate in Iowa that I stay with half the year. And then when I'm out east, I usually stay with my mom. But I try to split the time because the training is good. But it's also like good to not be stuck in the same place when you're trying to be successful in professional wrestling. Like if I just stay here in Maryland and I work New Jersey and I work Maryland, that's great. And I work Delaware, whatever. Like there's stuff here. But then nobody in the Midwest cares who Kaia is. Nobody in the South knows who Kaia is. Nobody on the West Coast is getting any magic, you know? And I think to be successful in this business, you need to put yourself out there and you need to interact with as many people as humanly possible. Like the internet's only going to get you so far. You still need that in-person interaction across the board in many places to be successful. So I just want to be able to constantly go between the East, go between the Midwest, get out to the West easier, like meet people all over, like wrestle in front of different crowds, right? Because everybody responds and reacts differently. Like a Jersey crowd isn't a Chicago crowd, is not a crowd in the South. Like I don't want to get in the pattern where I'm just wrestling the same 4 or 5 opponents nonstop, which happens all the time with in women's wrestling, right? I remember my first year, I was like, I just want to wrestle as many different women as possible, like from different schools, different backgrounds, different, you know, walks of life, like different ages, different wrestling styles. I just wanted to get as much experience under my belt with different people. So that's part of the reason why I go back and forth and why I've always pushed to go new places and wrestle new people.
That's a huge, and because we interviewed Kristen Ashley from PWI, she's a contributor, and that's
I love her. She's so great.
yeah. And I didn't understand the criteria, so that was what we asked her, was what some of the criteria is for like the PWI top 150 for women, and it really is like it's matches and it's who you're against. Really, and intergender matches don't count, that's hard, especially for the independents, because if nobody's there, like you're gonna wrestle. But it made sense to me. But now that I understand the criteria, that's huge that you're going out and trying to get in front of these different crowds, because it, like you said, it doesn't even it counts for stuff like that, but it also counts for the fans because they get to experience you for the first time. And I say this all the time, but I live in Montana. Like I don't get pro wrestling out here. Like once every 3 years, like WWE was
I
here
think
in
I know
Billings.
one
Like,
place that runs in Idaho, and that's it. As far as like, well, there's people in North Dakota too, but these are again like opposite. They're not central; they're opposite sides of a very large state. So yeah, there's not a whole hell of a lot out that way, right?
I have nothing to. All of my is this. It is on a screen, no matter where it's at. I've only been lucky to go, a handful of times, 10 probably. But the biggest thing for me is every time I go, what amazes me is the amount of girls, like the little girls that are there to see people like you. So when you go to these shows, are you seeing more and more and more little girls? And what are they saying to you? Don't worry about Empress, because we can't hear her at all. So whatever she's doing, like, we can't hear her. So, and even if we do, she ruled the whole show.
It's hilarious, so it's fine. She's a literal gremlin. But yeah, like, I love that. Like, I don't care if other wrestlers like what I do. I don't care. I don't care if, like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm not in wrestling to impress other people in wrestling, right? I'm in wrestling to enjoy myself and have fun, and also, like, just like, if kids like what I'm doing, like, that's such a huge check in the box, man. Like, I just remember how cool I thought wrestling was. And I still think wrestling is cool, but like how cool I thought it was when I was a kid, and how larger than life these characters felt, and how excited I would get to go to an independent show or like go to a house show and like just have my peeking over the little guardrails, just watching and like just being in awe of these people and these performers, and like in the women that I used to see growing up, like Trish and Lita, and like just thinking they were the coolest. And it's like, man, if little kids think I'm cool, I'm doing something right, man. Because kids are also the toughest critics, right? Like, kids will just tell you. So
straight. I'm a preschool teacher, so I know. I hear it every day. I hear it like, you got a booger, like there's sleep, like your breath smells. Like I hear it all the time. So they are your worst critic and your biggest fan, I think.
Yeah. So to see like kids, and especially like younger girls, becoming wrestling fans and feeling safe in the space of wrestling, and having female performers like myself to look up to, like, I love that aspect of it. To me, that is like the chef's kiss, right? Like, that's so cool to inspire other girls that they can be like strong and beautiful and powerful. Like, I love that. That's so great. I get so excited about that.
That's what you're about the empowerment. You're about the patriarchal system in a lot of ways. It's huge. Like, and it's, Kristen had it last week too. No matter where you go, TV wise, if you watch anything that's on television, 25% of it's going to be a female match. And we always go back and forth about, well, why doesn't WWE have intergender matches? And my contention is the reason they don't is because China did that, and there isn't another China, and I don't think they want to tarnish what she's already done. Is it easier for you to? I'm not trying to. Is it easier for you to be? No, I don't want to say feminist, but be able to empower those young girls. And typically, the way I see it, like, they're usually there with their dad. Like, their dad's bringing the little girl because they want to see them emulate somebody like you that wants to stand their ground, knows who they are, is proud of who they are, and isn't really worried about what other people think. Do you see fans like that more often now, like dads with their little girls, or is it just families altogether?
I think that it depends on what particular wrestling show you are attending and where. One of the things that I think is really great about WWE is if you attend a WWE show, there are men, women, kids, older people, families, groups of girls, groups of dudes, like people from like LGBTQIA community, all different races, all different ethnicities. Like, it is the melting pot of wrestling at their shows. You do see fans from all walks of life there. And I think that's really cool that they have that kind of reach. And I think that every wrestling space should aspire to reach that many different people, right? Like, and just bring everyone in on all the fun. So I love that about it. But because of that, I don't think there is a typical, like, a dad bringing a girl to a wrestling show. Like, my mom took all of us to our wrestling shows when I was a kid. I used to watch wrestling with my grandma while she would sew. Like it's always been like women introduced me to wrestling. Interestingly enough. So I don't think that it's always like one way. Like I think people are introduced to the product in so many different ways, right? And I just love that it's not one way and that people find wrestling in the craziest ways, whether it be your family introduces you, your friends drag you to a show and then you end up liking it, pops up on TV one day and you're like, wait a second, this is pretty cool. Like, if you're a kid and somebody trades you an action figure. I mean, there's a million different ways people get into wrestling in the million different avenues, but I love that people like are putting their younger girls in front of strong women, and those women can be like I say idols, right? But like they're inspirational to those girls in a good way.
Here's me going to be completely honest because I saw this the other day and you just mentioned it. So it's a generational thing because I'm an old man, like I'm 47. So it's hard for
I'm 33.
me. Okay, so like,
and then there's a whole generation of wrestlers that are below me now, so I'm in the middle.
Right? So LGBTQT, I am ignorant because I just saw this the other day. The I don't know what the I is. So I want you. What is the I? Do you know?
So it's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer / questioning, intersex, asexual, aromantic, agender. It's they've just made it an extra inclusive statement at this point, so there was nothing being excluded from their community. So it covers all aspects.
And it's newer. It's hard, and even when I do interviews, because I call it cultural bias. I have been raised with a cultural bias because of where I live and who my parents were and who their parents were. So I mess up sometimes. So I'm glad that you corrected that for me today. I learned something.
I mean, I think there needs to be a willingness to learn and a willingness to educate as well. So as long as both of those things are happening, everybody will get brought up to speed. I truly believe that. We all just need to help each other out.
Absolutely. And your karma is killer. Like your karma is killer. And I'm always a positive guy. And I think that's when I see you working or when I've seen you do other interviews or any of that, it's always, always, always positive.
Yeah, I mean, like we all go through depression, right? But like, I don't want to do an interview and sit here and talk about everything that makes me depressed. First off, there's not enough time in the world for all of that. Secondly, when we're tuning into wrestling, it's escapism, right? Like we're not watching or engaging with wrestling or the wrestling community to be upset, angry, or depressed. We're engaging with this community because it's something that it distracts us from the things in life that maybe aren't so great, right? So I want to contribute in a positive way so people can really escape and really feel happy and really enjoy themselves when they partake in the wrestling community. That's just me. That's how I've always viewed it. If it's an escapist thing, let's make it the best escape people can possibly have from their lives.
It is definitely an escapist thing for me because it's not live out here. So I'm watching whether it's Fight TV or IWTV, and my only interaction I really get to have is the internet community, people on Twitter. Like that's my engagement. I don't get to sit around and I don't get to go to shows. I don't get to enjoy it. Like I get to watch from afar. And I think it's key that positivity will always outlast the negativity.
Absolutely. It's so easy to be negative too. Like I've learned that in the course of recovering from an injury is like, it's very easy to spiral and like think of one negative thing and then it's another negative thing. And then it's like 5 negative things. And then you're just like this dung beetle rolling a ball of negativity shit. It's just getting bigger and bigger and fucking bigger until you can't control it. And then it rolls over you and crushes you. So you don't want it to get to that, right? I mean, you don't want to be toxic positivity either, but don't enable it. Don't set yourself up for failure. Try to set yourself up for success the best you can.
Do you feel like your beliefs, and you're going to find this crazy, but I follow the moon calendar to get my hair. I follow it to get my haircut because
that's not crazy. If that's what works for you, why would that be crazy?
I have found, I live in Montana, so it's very closed-minded and a lot of right-wing. It's conservative in a lot of ways. So when people, when they say, when are you going to get a haircut? I'm like, let me check my calendar. And they're like, what are you looking at? I'm like, I got to check the moon. I don't want to get my haircut when it's not. Do you live kind of that way too? Are you like a lunar calendar person? Do you, I use the Moonly app. That's what I use. I'm not putting them over anything, but I use that app.
I like Moonly. Yes, it does. It plays a big part into what I do. I center a lot of my practice around the phases of the moon, the aspects of the moon, the goddess of the moon, the goddess of the light, Selene. It's a big part of my practice, just predominantly because there are phases of the moon that lend themselves to certain types of spells. There are phases of the moon in which, you know, it's better to do certain things. Like on a new moon, if there's projects you want to kick off, that's the perfect time to do it. It's all about rebirth, renewal, setting the stage for the next couple of weeks. And then full moon is you want to see it come to fruition, and then you have a reflection period afterwards. So it's like very cyclical, and it helps me stay focused on what I'm trying to accomplish in life and what I'm trying to accomplish as a witch as well.
To me, it seems like you stay in the moment a lot. You're in the moment.
I try to be very present. I really do.
Yeah.
It took practice.
So you're not.
I wasn't always present, but I try to be.
Yeah. How? Obviously, your mom and grandma played a huge part of that. But is that something that when you sit back and you look and you go, man, that person is not present at all. Like they're sitting there with their kids or your family. I mean, they have the entire family goes out and eats, and they have like gadgets in their hand. Do people ever come up to you and ask you like, how are you always in everything all the time, 100%?
I think what I refer to this as like being present, but also like being in a state of alignment, right? Which is when all of your thoughts are lining up with your emotions, you're consistent with your behavior, and you're able to process things well. You can make good choices, and you can make choices into what requires an internalized versus an externalized reaction. So there's being present and being in alignment. And you could say being present is as simple as just not being on your phone as much, right? But being in alignment is like a state of mind to help make your life easier, to have less strife, and to be more effective in your daily practice, whatever that may be. So it's a lot of patience. It's a lot of discipline. It doesn't cost anything. Like you can't buy alignment. You can go out and buy a crystal. You can go out and buy herbs. You can go out and buy, it's called materia in the witchy world, is anything like that you would use to set the stage for a spell. You can go buy all that shit. You can buy the most expensive, prettiest amethyst geode that's like $5,000. But if you're not in alignment, you're not going to be effective in anything you do. So you should really strive to get to that playing field, right? Where it's like you're in touch with your thoughts and your emotions. You can control all of your reactions. And because of that, you have a very strong sense of self-awareness. It all goes hand in hand.
That's an amazing answer. Like I
put a lot of thought into it.
Well, no, I think it means something, especially as you continue to grow and as you continue to like just progress in your in the profession of professional wrestling. I think it's valid because I have never, and I'm going through my head and I'm just thinking I've never been able to really see somebody that is as dynamic as you are with your belief system be able to translate that into the ring. I can't, and if I'm wrong, somebody will correct me.
Pure magic, right? Hashtag pure magic.
Yeah, like
Ring of Honor pure magic champion.
Yeah,
one day.
Okay,
that would be great.
Yeah, that's just it. And I think the reason it works is because it's so natural. It is so natural. Like back to the Black and Brave. Like, did they ask you like, what's your stick? What's your gimmick? Like, what's your thing? Or what was a response or like, hey, this is what I want to do? Like, they're not trying to change you or anything. They're just you're able to go with it and do whatever you want with it, right?
No, it's really nice. It's kind of like having a really good support system that helps you find your way, whatever your way is. I know they do promo classes and they do a promo day, typically like every wrestling school does. And on that day, it's just whatever you want, whatever you've been thinking about, whatever you've been kicking around. And then you would cut your promo, which, it's sometimes a little bit intimidating. And you're like, oh, well, I've never cut a promo before. And I'm just going to sit here and cut a promo in front of Seth Rollins. Let's see how this goes. But no, like both Seth and Merrick are very kind and very constructive with their feedback. And if you are passionate and you feel strongly, they will help you get where you need to be. I remember I was like, I'm going to be a witch. I'm going to cut a promo like a witch. We're going to see how it goes. And I tried to do it very conventionally and it was okay. And then it was like, well, why don't you just do it like a witch would? And I was like, all right. So then I cut the promo like I was casting a spell and it was like cool and it was different and it worked. And I was like, oh, wait, there's something here and it's a part of me. So it's like going to be super easy to just make this grow. And that's kind of how I got there, was on that day. I was like, I realized I found my little niche in wrestling.
Yeah, because you're you. You're not having to make anything up. That's you, and I think that's what's so cool about your marketing. Can you
I
talk
don't
a
want to
little?
wear. I don't want to be like I'm wearing a costume and I'm a witch either. Like I just, to me, it's like anybody can go out to Party City and buy a gimmick and put it on and have a costume and be a character, right? Like you could be a firefighter, a cop. You could go buy a witch costume. Jesus, there's plenty of them. I wanted it to be a representation of like this real life witch that practices. That's not like the spooky witch, the scary witch, or like the super like. I wanted to just be very relatable to us in a sense, you know, like I'm just like this person that is just really super good at channeling her energy and using it to kick ass. Like that's the premise at the end of the day, is I feed off of that. I'm the conduit of karma.
How much time do you think you put into? Are you like your promos now? Like since you've been down, you've done. Are you practicing? Like are you putting stuff together? Are you trying things?
Yeah, because a lot of it is just speaking from a witchy perspective. I seem to do better if I have like talking points. And I mean, I don't know if I'm giving advice here. If you struggle with your promos, this is certainly advice to you. But
There you go.
one of the things that I have found to be helpful is I think of the things in wrestling that we are often asked to cut promos on, whether it be matches you're getting ready to have, loss, coming back from a loss, coming off a win, you know, arguing an injustice, like whatever, right? The typical scenarios, putting over a show you're going to be at. These are what most of our promos are cut on for the most part. And I try to figure out like, okay, so if someone asks me to cut a promo on a loss that I took, how would a witch speak to that? And then I draft out some ideas, and then I have that in the back of my head. And then it's like kind of like being able to pick and pull, you know, like, I don't know.
Do you feel like you're your worst critic sometimes?
It's like a promo set, just like a move set, right? Like you have a move set that's effective. You have a promo set. You're like, this is how the witch feels about wins, how she feels about losses, how she feels about upcoming matches, how she feels about injustices. You know, like it's like a character study almost. I don't necessarily think wrestling so much as having a gimmick, but wrestling is a giant novel, and you're a character in the novel. And like, how would your character react? How would your character look? What would they wear out on a date? What would they wear for an interview? What would they wear when they wrestle? Like how it's like a character study. And I think the more you can think about what you do in wrestling as a character study, the more effective you'll be as a performer.
Anthony Green, like well, it's embedded into my head.
Oh, he's the best.
He's yeah.
Fellow pug owner.
Yes. So Easter egg. Every episode we've done, Anthony Green has been mentioned or been on there one way or another, because when we first started doing this when he was 14 years old, like he was a fan, and he's grown.
Aww,
And
that's
I've
awesome.
yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's like being a dad, but it's like being one of the proudest, biggest fans I can think of. Just he's one of the nicest dudes in the world, and the way the way he explained it to me, it finally made sense. He's like, I have to be the actor, the producer, the director, costume design, like all of those, all of that, and I have to go out there. And sometimes it'll be somebody I have never worked with before, and we have to do this entire thing and tell a story. And I think that's like your craft and craft, like both of them, I think comes across just genuine all in all.
Mm-hmm.
And
I feel like when there's a true love for professional wrestling, which I believe very strongly that Anthony Green has, can't. Oh my gosh.
Empress wants in on Anthony Green.
This is the clip. This is what you're gonna hear. And he'll appreciate it because he has a pug. I think that when... Can I please finish my thought? Thank you. Oh my
This
goodness.
is awesome.
I was going to say, I think that when there's a true passion for wrestling and what we do, which I believe Anthony Green has, I believe he loves wrestling, that it is genuine, because you can't fake a love for wrestling. Like, you can tell in wrestling who really loves this shit and who's just here. Like, you know, I know, you know, everybody knows that vibe. And I think that when you are so passionate and you feel so strongly about being a part of the wrestling community, you just carry yourself different in the best way possible.
Right. And to me, it's always the most positive, caring, kind, understanding people are almost always the ones that make it.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, I group you in that. Like, I group you in that because it's huge. Have you planned like there, Empress?
Maybe if I give her some attention, she'll quiet.
That's what makes interviews like this so unique, is because we can always look back and go on it and go, man, how many times has Empress been on a podcast?
Once. I did one podcast that was all about the Empress, and
Really?
she made no noise and slept in my lap the entire time. So there's that.
See, Kurt's even saying hi to Empress. Empress is the third star tonight.
He's the real star here.
Yeah,
Empress
JP
content always goes better than Kaia content. People, they're just here for the pug.
JP's my buddy. He does the podcast with me over there in Boston, and he's out right now. He's hanging out and doing the fun things. But have you planned out, like, as your I know I'm kind of projecting ahead. Like, you've probably thought a little bit about this, but like, once you're, quote, like, air quotes, 100% and you're back and you're doing what you want to do, like, have you tried to game plan this, where it really depends on your recovery and your rehab and how fast you progress, and once you're given that green light, then does that process start, or have you already really started that process?
I mean, it's good to have like benchmarks and deadlines during a recovery so you can keep yourself motivated and moving forward. I am shooting, like I said, for the end of the spring, and as I get closer to that, I will probably then open up my bookings so I can start filling in some dates for some places that I really would like to be. I really, honestly, I miss New England. I can't wait to be back up at Beyond and WWR. Drew has been nothing but amazing to me in my wrestling career. I feel like sometimes half the battle in wrestling is finding somebody that will give you a chance and wants to cultivate you, right? And Drew gave me that opportunity with WWR, and he was the first person to give me consistent opportunity and repetitive opportunity month to month, and put me in an environment where I could truly grow as a performer. And for that, I am so grateful to have him, and I can't wait to come up and put a little bit of magic back in Worcester.
I can't tell you, I'm excited. Like, it's Drew's huge, and like I started seeing some stuff about Wrestle Open, and
it's like, if wrestling are puppies, like we're puppies, right? And we're all in the pet store window. It's like, you definitely want somebody who's going to adopt you and put you in a house with toys and food and a little bed and help you become a good dog, right? Like, right. That's what you want. You don't want some asshole to adopt you and throw you out in the backyard in a kennel with like 12 other dogs. Like, you want that. And you're sitting there and you're begging, and you get overlooked, and like other people get taken home, and you're just like sad, and you're like puppy face, and then like somebody picks you up and goes, yep, this is the one. I'm taking this one. And then you get that environment in which you can thrive. And Drew definitely gave me that at WWR and Beyond. And I just can't wait to go back.
Yeah, huge. We're huge. Like, I love American Rana.
Oh, yeah, it's great, right? It's such a good show every year.
Just one of my, like, it's packed. The crowd's hot. Like, it's loud. The energy there is indescribable. You could do that in front of 30,000 fans, but it still wouldn't feel as intimate as just the American Rana. And I messaged Drew, and Drew, you can sponsor pro wrestlers, you can sponsor whatever. I mean, that's huge. That's something that's new. And what he wanted to make sure is, he's like, hey, any money that any podcast, any person, individual, business, whatever, wants to invest, and Beyond has 3.5 million YouTube subscribers, so do that math.
Yeah, it's wild. It's crazy. I don't think people realize that when they talk like wrestling and reach. Like, that's nuts in the best way. Like, I think that's so great, and I'm so happy for them. But that's an insane reach.
It is.
It's like an engaged reach too. It's not just like bullshit. It's like people actually watching it, which is like makes it even crazier.
It's 100%. And the biggest point he made is, like, when an individual sponsors a match or a wrestler in that match, whatever that sponsorship costs, all of that goes to the wrestler. Like, he does. He's just, and that to me, that speaks volumes to Beyond and W. Like, that's why we push and we love people that are there, and it makes me excited that you're excited to go back there.
Dude, I'm so excited. I'm so ready too. I love that crowd. I just miss the fans up there so much. They were so kind to me as I went through my growing pains, and I always feel so loved when I wrestle there, and I just can't wait to be back. And like all the girls, there's so much good talent up there. Like you always have good matches and good matchups. Like it's just such a special thing that he's cultivated, especially with Wrestling Open now, is like so cool. Like they're out drawing like other major indies every week, and that's insane. And like you never hear about that. Like I'll open up Twitter and like nobody's ever giving them credit. And but I've seen it, and I'm just like, this is amazing. Like it's so special, and I'm so happy that worked out in the best possible way.
To me, the only because West Coast, like you're talking about, only comparison for that out here is Defy.
Yeah, Defy's really cooking. They're cooking lately.
Yeah, I'm. Maybe I should message Matt real quick and just say, "Hey, the Good Witch is looking to land out in West," and see what he says.
Well, if he's in LA, tell him I'll say hi at Mania. I don't know. I am gonna go this year.
Oh, I'm sure. Are you going down to the Collective? Or are you going down for Mania weekend?
I don't know what I'm gonna do when I go down yet. I'm gonna kind of just keep my options open and try to get out all over and like meet people. Maybe try to meet some people I haven't met before, if that makes sense, because I go to the same places all the time now, and I always talk about wrestling all the same people. Like meeting all the same people is the same thing. So like my big goal this year is to just meet some new people and hopefully meet some people out west, because I haven't gone out west a lot. Like that's one of my reasons for going. Like I think it's a great opportunity to meet a lot of people from the west that you wouldn't get to meet otherwise. So I'm excited for that.
Before COVID happened, we were going to go to Mania, but we had Airbnb set up. I think there was 7 or 8 bedrooms, and there was about 8 of us podcasts that were each going to have a bedroom, and it was just going to be a place for people to come and hang out that we knew and had kind of gone through the business, and that went out. But I think that's something we're looking at doing. Like when you are there other people that you're going? You obviously no real plans. Are there? How do you?
Yeah,
do you know people down there?
No, I don't know anybody down there. We're just winging it. It's gonna be great.
That's the way I think.
I don't really know anybody in LA. Like I said, I that's why I want to go, is because like I've never been to that territory. I say territory, brother. I ain't even been to that territory, brother. But I've not been. So I really want to go put myself out there and meet some people out there, so that way when I'm cleared, I can get out to the West Coast, because I've wrestled in the South and I've wrestled like, in the Midwest and like the north part of the Midwest, and I've done New England and like the Tri-Cities and the DMV, like never done the West. So it's like, let's check it off the box. Let's go somewhere I've never been before. I think it's a good gauge for you as a performer too. Like if you get used to wrestling in front of the same people all the time, of course they're going to like you. Like no one's going to hate you. Like they like you. They're used to seeing you, like whatever. But when you go introduce yourself to a new crowd who's not familiar with your work, it's a true test of character, is to like, is it working? Do people get you? Do they actually like you? Can you get over? Like, I love challenging myself in that way. I love crowds that I've not actually been in front of.
Have you?
You got to be uncomfortable sometimes. It's good.
I think you talked about that. That's the edge, right? You're pushing yourself up against that uncomfortableness to challenge yourself and be willing to fail and learn from it and grow from it, and maybe not do it next time. And the fact that you want to come out west is that's huge. Because a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't want to come out west. They just don't, because it's a flight, and they may miss some bookings out there. But it's huge to come out here.
East. I will say you're very spoiled in the East, because they're, especially God, if you live in like Philly or like Jersey. Oh my God, like you could literally work every weekend, not do a drive longer than 2 hours. Like you're spoiled, but you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to go places that are not 2 hours away. You got to go places that are 20 hours away. You got to go places that are 40 hours away. You got to go places that are 6 hours away. Like you just have to push. You have to keep pushing, and you can't stop, because as you push, there are people who are not going to want to push with you. And then your car gets empty, and then it's just you and your dog pushing, like people drop off. People that you started out with aren't there. They get married, they get girlfriends or boyfriends, they have kids, they stop wrestling because they're not interested, they get hurt and they retire, or they're content working where they work. And as you start getting opportunity further up the ladder at good places, it starts to become more about just you, because all those people drop off. Not to be like sad or depressing or anything, but it's like, that's what I think makes the difference, is when you are still willing to push and do that 7-hour drive by yourself to get where you need to be. And yeah, that's when the game changes a little bit.
I think you bring up a solid point, because I was educated again. Like ride-alongs are really no longer a thing, and I think you just hit the nail on the head, where it's the people that have the drive and the want it are making the drive, and those people that people just aren't getting in your car because they don't want it, or their
Yeah,
lives have changed.
it's
One of the
very
two.
demanding. It's very demanding of your time, of your money, of your resources. I think that there are a lot of people that get to a point where they're just very complacent, or people who have an injury like I had, and they say, you know what? But I'm not like that. I see myself being successful in this business. I think I have a lot of potential. And I think that if I work really, really hard and I put my mind to it and I put myself out there, I will be successful. I truly believe that. I think that that's like that winner's mindset that you've got to have, you know?
How I got two more questions. I want to
Mhm.
get you back on the road because
Okay.
again, thank you so much for taking the
Yeah,
time.
of course.
If somebody wanted to pursue professional wrestling and they're like, I want to go to Black and Brave, like what does somebody have to do to one apply, and what is the process for them?
They have an application on their website. As far as their reviewing for exception, I have no idea how that goes, but you would apply through the website. If you are accepted, I think it's crazy. It's like a 2-year wait now to go there. Like when I applied, it was like 9 months, but 2 years. So you got a lot of time before you go if you decide to go there. My advice to you would be, especially because the bar is very, very high there and they have a very high standard for their students. If you are gifted with time before you go, get in shape. Go to the gym and get in shape. Wrestling is very, very physically demanding, and you don't want to show up out of shape and not get the most out of it you can because you weren't physically prepared, especially if you have the gift of time, right? If you're waiting, please like do yourself a favor and like get yourself where you need to be so you can actually maximize your opportunity when you get it. I would also say if you do decide to go there and you do have to wait to go to class, there's independent wrestling like there's never been before. You don't have to be trained to go to a show and meet people and help out. Get your ass out to some shows, meet some people and help out. Like be like, hey, I'm going to wrestling school in 6 months. I'm just here to help out today. Like get a jump on that networking. Like you don't have to wait to do that. Before I went to Black and Brave, I used to help out at GCW. I used to help out at Impact when they would run in Philly. I would help out at small local indies in Delaware, Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Because it's like you want to make the best use out of that time. It's not dead time if you're waiting to go to a really good wrestling school. You want to show up in the best possible position for success as humanly possible. So get yourself in shape and do some networking.
That's awesome because that's to a T. You are your own business.
Imagine waiting 2 years to go to wrestling school and you get there and you can't physically do it because you did not get yourself into the proper shape or conditioning. You know, like that would be the biggest letdown, you know? So like set yourself up for success. Work hard. If that's what you want to do, go to the gym, work hard, network, meet people, make yourself somebody to know in wrestling right from the start.
The networking is huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
And if you can make those acquaintances and show up and just say, hey, don't pay me. I just want to learn how to put the ring together because I'm going to school here in like 9 months.
Yeah.
I want to learn how to put the ring together. I want to learn how to tear it down. Don't pay me. If you pay me, that's fine. Just let me work for you. Let me just
meet people,
meet
have conversations. Like it's such an underrated skill, the ability to connect with humans, whether it be connecting with people through networking and wrestling or connecting with fans through the internet. Literally, we all have a cell phone. You have no excuse. Like building those real warm body human connections will pay off across the board, whether it be like having good connection with your fans, having good connection with your fellow wrestlers, connecting with promoters, like building those relationships and cultivating those relationships will pay off for you tenfold.
So last question, and I usually say this for last. So when in Philly, do you eat a Philly cheesesteak?
I do.
Where do you go?
John's roast pork.
Yes.
That's the right answer.
There's sometimes people say Pat's, people say Tom's, like they're, it's all over the place, but that's
John's roast pork.
Okay.
And it's right down by the ECW arena.
See? Okay. Yeah.
There you go. So WrestleMania is in Philadelphia next year. You got to go to John's roast pork. I'm not from Philly, so I don't know how much weight my opinion has, but I live like 2 hours south of Philly, so maybe
it's weighted because it's weighted because we ask people, and it's on the list. It's on there, so it's up there.
Said that?
Oh yeah, there's been several actually. They've also mentioned the ECW arena. That's the reason why is because it's right there. So you're in good company.
I mean, what company am I in here? Now I'm really curious.
I'll have to go back and look. Like I actually have a sheet, so I'll have
No,
to.
you have a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Like, I
Oh
have a
yeah.
spreadsheet for that.
Yeah.
I
This
can
is
make
huge.
graphs.
Yep.
That would be great.
Yeah. So
Just
when
like
people
the
be
shitty
like,
Excel like default graph too. It's like a meme right there. Where wrestlers feel the best cheesesteak in Philadelphia is, and then it's like the control is like proximity to Philadelphia. Like,
yeah,
are they
exactly.
from there or are they from the West? Like,
right, and you got to cut it. You got to take the 10% on the top and 10% on the bottom, and just kind of weed those out so you have real numbers. This is real statistics here. Thanks for
it is. This
so much.
is like the cutting edge information people really want to know in an interview.
It is.
Nobody cares where I went to wrestling school, but they want to know where I eat my cheesesteaks.
Exactly.
For this content.
Hey, thanks again.
When you're on the road, you eat a lot, right? So it's
you
like
do.
We know where to eat. We know the food.
That's why we ask, is because it's good food, and a lot of times you have to have alternatives because it's got to be gluten free, or I'm on a specific diet, or But when you're talking cheesesteak, Philly, you gotta know.
You gotta go, yeah.
Hey, thanks again for taking the time. If there's anything we can do, always shout out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you don't mind holding on for 1 minute here, I'm gonna get some information, and then but TW Mafia, that's Wrestling News Source. It's a Yeti, Kaia McKenna. Do all you can. It's at KAIAMCK on Twitter.
On all platforms.
Yep. Buy her merch.
That is the handle.
Buy her merch. Go see her to show. Yeah. Oh, hey.
Buy my merch.
Before we go, can you look? Can you see? This gear. You got new gear. The gear.
I made it.
It is. That's good stuff right there. That is good. Like I was on Twitter. I was scrolling. I'm like, she's in it. Like she's making her gear. You're finding things. Like I just had to show that for the.
My grandmother was a quilter, and my mom makes clothes. So I have been sewing since I was a little kid, and it just happens to come in handy for wrestling.
TW Mafia, it's Yeti. Thanks for listening.